All right, so we looked at your proposal, and I'm excited that we both agree that our starting salary is in a good place. We both agree that we need to value our senior people. We just don't agree on how much money we have to do that. And quite honestly, I think the proposal we gave you is above and beyond what we had originally offered. I think this is a much better proposal than the 3%. It's still the same amount of money because that's all we have to work with. I just want to remind you, we do value those officers who have spent their careers, 15 or more years, like you said, putting their lives on the lines for our students, and that's what this proposal shows, is that we value our long-term officers, our people who've been here for a long time. And anybody who's been here we offered you 3, right? That was the proposal we gave you. So if you've been here from a year, to 5 years, you're getting what we offered. And then anybody from 5 to 15 is getting between 0.5% and 1% more than what the district originally offered. And those officers who've been here for more than 15 years are getting 3% more than what we originally put on the table. This is a great deal for our senior leadership and our police force. So, and you got to remember, this money feeds into their overtime rates, and it's raises where you are for next year. If there's a raise, you're starting 3% higher than where we had originally proposed. And we can't do any better than this at this point. We don't have the authority to go over 3. We don't have the money. Given the financial uncertainty out of Tallahassee, it would be fiduciarily irresponsible for us to pull more money out. And so we have the 2 proposals for you to consider, the 3% across the board, and then one that we gave you there we're calling Proposal B that shows that graduated amount. And we'd like you to consider that.
All right, so our counter is rejected?
Yes.
Fellas?
What would be the savings to the district in freezing the starting salary for 3 years?
Well, I don't know the number off the top of my head. I rely on our money people to do that, but we're not really interested in freezing that starting salary. We need to be competitive in the market, and the counties and municipalities are able to raise funds that we're not able to raise, and clearly the way Tallahassee thinks, even if we raise our own money, they're going to take it away from us. So we need to have that flexibility to raise that starting salary. If other municipalities come up and they see what we're offering our officers and want to be competitive with us, they're going to start raising their rates, and so we're going to need to stay competitive with them. And freezing it for 3 years, that puts our officers and our unit at a disadvantage, because the last thing we want is to not be able to hire people.
Okay, so let's change the 3 years and say, what would be the savings for freezing it for 1 year? We've established that.
Well, we basically are freezing it for 1 year. They're getting people who are working for us now. It's a 0.5% increase, so we are basically freezing the starting salary already for the 1 year.
No, we're not. We're giving those people a 0.5% increase, and the person that gets hired tomorrow is going to be making 0.5% less than the person here today. So let's freeze it for 1 year. What would be the savings? I'd like to see a dollar amount, or I'd like to estimate a dollar amount. What would it be? We're estimating to hire 100 officers for next year, correct? 100 more officers?
Yes.
So freezing that starting salary for 1 year on 100 officers at 3% would be estimated what?
Where are you getting the 3% for the first year officers? They're
You
not.
offered 3%. Your side is off at 3%.
Correct.
We didn't raise the minimum.
But we're raising the minimum 0.5. It's not a 3% savings. The original across the board is 3% for everybody. It levels out. It's still the same pot of money.
If we went across the board, 3% across the board for everyone, and we froze the starting salary for 1 year, what would be the savings on 3% on 100 officers?
I think, I'm trying to understand your proposal, so forgive me, but I think you're assuming that you raise the minimum when you give her across-the-board increase. You don't always do that. The decision to raise the minimum is a year-by-year decision depending on how the marketplace is moving. So theoretically, your question of what would you save, in a year when we're not moving the minimum, you save nothing. You know, now, I think your assumption is we would be moving the minimum by 3%, and that was never our proposal. So if you're assuming that, there would be, well, to move the minimum
Yeah.
3%, then there would be a savings.
Okay, so
But
then-
this new proposal only moves at 0.5%.
Well, there's two proposals, there's an A and B.
Right.
My question was, once again, saving the 3% on 100 offices, freezing the starting salary 1 year, what would that monetary value come out to? What would be the number in a roundabout? I'm estimating
I
it
don't
to
know
be.
that anybody at the table's
Yeah, we
comfortable
haven't done the
making,
math.
shooting that
Yeah.
kind of numbers across the table that
Right,
you're gonna
well,
rely upon just off the top of our
I'm
head.
not a numbers person, but off the top of my head, 100 people at 3%, I'm thinking about 130, 140,000. Would I be correct in saying something like that?
I just want to make sure we understand that our second proposal that gets to the 6% for the more experienced officers, we've leveraged that savings, right? By making a very small adjustment on the front end of the salary schedule. So I'm not sure why we're
I'm not
debating.
shooting anything down. I
Okay.
just keep asking the same question over and over again. I would like to know
About 140,000.
about 140,000. I'm estimating, I said 130. Would I be correct with saying that?
We're not comfortable giving you a number like that. We want to be exact, not just shooting round ball numbers at you, because if we're wrong, this is the taxpayer money we're playing with. And it's not something that we're going to shoot from the hip and say, oh yeah, it's going to be 130, 140,000. We don't know that,
Well-
what the savings would be. And I'm trying to get to what were you trying to achieve with this number? I mean,
Well, if I was given a number, what I'm trying to achieve is to find out where is that extra money going then? If we freeze the starting salary for 1 year, there's going to be a benefit to the district. There's going to be a surplus there. That surplus needs to be redistributed to the officers here. I want to know what that,
it's not a surplus. It's not a surplus. A surplus assumes that the money is already there.
well, if you're talking
So
about,
if we're giving you let me just make sure if maybe what you're getting at is if we have a 3% across the board for everybody, if we took out the people who are making that one, right, from one and less, what could we do with that 3%? That's what we gave to you in the second proposal, is we gave them a 0.5, which is just a 0.5% raise. It's as close to freezing without freezing it. And then we were able to get to the 3.5, or the 3.54, and 6.
I think what he's trying to get at is you're offering 3%, and if each percent is $150,000, is basically what it boils down to. Correct?
Based on the 450,000 number that we got last
It's
time.
it's a
that
very
is
rough
100%.
number, but
Yeah, it's a rough number, and it's just, if we saved $150,000, there's an extra percent right there on top of the 3%. So right off the bat, we're at 4%.
And if proposal B was more than 3%, now granted negligibly more, you said 3.005
it rounds
or
up,
something
it's
like
3%.
that. Okay, I heard before we caucus that it was more, it was
It's something along
as
the
slight as it was more than 3.
3.007 or 0.6.
Okay,
it's
so
3%.
it was more than 3.
It's a rounding error.
It's what
That's a
they call a
rounding
rounding error.
It's a rounding amount. It's 3% deal.
Those?
Can I say something? So, with your proposal, those officers, let's say that started in August, they get a 0.5% increase, right?
Correct.
Based on this. Somebody gets hired, so that means the starting salary, which is at 46 something, will also increase a 0.5%, correct? Or
Correct.
no? So basically, the compression issue, this is how we got the compression issue. Over the years, when we got a raise, the starting salary raised as well. And I think that's what Officer Lopez is trying to address, is not allowing our starting salary to keep up with our raises, because that does not address our compression issue. It still keeps us to where the salary is there's no true gap between our salaries, because every time we get a raise, you raise the starting salary. And I understand to stay competitive, you have to do that. I do understand that. But if we just kept the starting salary for those who are not here at 46.7 or whatever it is, and only gave an increase to those officers that are physically here, then that kind of keeps our compression. It starts putting somewhat of a gap between that, if I'm correct. I could be wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, I was talking to the gentleman here because I think what we've been doing in the past, and I don't know that we did it the last round of bargaining because we needed to raise the starting salary. We've generally tried to fix that issue where we only raise the starting salary like the 1%. I'd have to go back and look at our past contracts. I know that we do that with the other units, that we don't raise the starting salary very much. We raise it just a little bit to stay competitive, but we haven't been raising it in lockstep.
No,
with everybody
I can
else.
tell you, I've been negotiating on this side for 8 years now, a little bit over 8 years, and the only time our starting salary froze is when this union brought it up, say, to freeze the starting salary. Other than that, it always went with the raises.
Okay, just the basics of compensation, if we can think about this just for a second, regardless of what your job is in an industry, whether you're a custodian, a teacher, a police officer, what have you, the market moves, right? Everybody's market moves by cost of living, that type of thing. So typically, when you give a salary increase, almost always, you don't freeze the starting salary because the market's moving, you know? So you typically, compression can be an issue if the market's moving fast, which the market has been moving fast for some of our jobs lately. So we are facing more of a compression issue. But that being said, to keep pace with the market, you almost always move the minimum a little bit, like we have in this proposal, 0.5%, and you move the other folks more than that, right? So you avoid the compression issue while you also follow the market. You got to move with the market. Otherwise, you find yourself, I can remember a few years back when the trades were moving really fast, for instance, right? So our painters and our plumbers and our carpenters and those folks, because there was such a building boom in Palm Beach County, the market was moving faster than we could address it, right? So we were in that position where they needed to be raised. So the basics of compensation, thanks for giving me a little bit of time here just to do compensation 101. You want to move the minimum so you're able to attract folks, but you also want to respect, like we're trying to here, the senior officers and respect them with compression. So this proposal merely tries to cobble together those two arguments, or those two positions, so we're able to attract and retain our officers.
Fellas?
I see, I mean, listen, I'm not saying that your side is not trying, but I kind of find it hard to swallow when we're addressing the compression issue on my brother's backs, is what we're doing. I mean, with a district with a budget in the trillions, and we're asking for pennies, and you're asking us to address an issue, once again, on our own backs. That's where I have an issue, but I'm done.
And I'm asking for a raise. I recognize that this is the money you have. But after a while, I'm asking for a raise for people that come to work and may not be here at the end of the day. That is and you say I have the same argument over and over again, but that is a huge thing. And and if you look at that, and we're asking for maybe, with what I gave you, maybe 2% more. So if you look at that, so we're down from 6 to in the 5s. So for 2%, we're going to have a hearing and air this out in front of the entire board. I mean, it seems to me like we could get a little closer. But I can't get closer if the work you've done to allocate it and cobble together is admirable. We need that. But I also need more, bargaining 105, more is better. And I'm not asking for more I'm talking about more for people that go in every day and don't know what they're going to be met with. There is a value to that.
We're addressing that with this proposal. We're addressing that. We agree with you.
Okay.
We're addressing that with our more senior officers, the ones who are coming in every single day for the last 15 years. We want to give them 6%. That's what you asked for. We're trying to get you to give those senior officers that we value so much a 6% raise. We just have to do it within a 3% pot of money.
Can I just clarify, since these are recorded, Officer Lopez, our budget has not hit the trillions. Our operating budget is just under $2 billion.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. My mistake.
No problem. But your other comment about balancing this on the backs of your officers, I mean, if you really look at this proposal, as Ms. Evans has pointed out, anyone with a year or more is going to get at least 3%. 5 years or more, they're going to get 3.5. 5 to 10. 10 years, 10 to 15, they'll get 4%, and 15 years or more, they'll get to 6% that you guys were going after. The group that's not going to see a big increase is the new hires, less than a year, who just joined us. They got the benefit of the 5%, and we raised our starting salary recently. So I don't feel like I think this is a creative way to get to where we need to be. It's not a real hardship for the people who just came in the door. And hopefully when they see this type of proposal, that'll give them some hope that if they stick with the district, there'll be better, increases down the road.
But unfortunately, until we see a step plan, which is basically what we ultimately need, there's nothing for them to look forward, moving forward.
But step
Right,
plans
but
are no
guys-
longer being used anywhere in any industry. They go to a min-max.
In our industry, it is.
We're trying to work with you. We're going to be right back at the table in a few months, right, to start talking about January of 2020. Just, if you consider
Anything
it.
else, fellas?
Yeah, this group of offices that you're planning on giving, that you proposed on giving a 0.5% increase, are you aware that we're talking about a group of officers, over 100 offices?
Correct.
Okay. And that doesn't address the compression issue now with the new hires after them. It's going to address that compression issue by 0.5%.
Correct. Well, it's incremental baby steps. We are public education, and we're not properly funded in Florida. My understanding is teacher salaries, we just dropped below Arizona. We're now 47th in the nation for average teacher salaries in the state of Florida. Florida does not fund public education, and that's the money we have to work with, is what we're given from Tallahassee. We can't earn it any other way, and when we try to, they want to take it away from us. So we are offering your officers that have been with us and been in the trenches and been at school every day for 15 years or more, we're offering them 6, which is 3% more than what we offered before. We're offering those officers with 10 to 15, 4%, which is a whole percentage more, and this builds year after year after year. So that 6% doesn't go away. They still have it. That's their base salary. So next year when the raises come, it's based upon the amount they're going to get after this 6%. So it adds to their retirement. It adds to their, overtime rates. This is a win for your team. And it does it within our money. And if you want to walk away from the table on it, we can walk away from the table and we'll strike our panel for impasse. You've declared impasse. We can't move past the 3%. It's what we have.
Yeah, let us step out.